Um, I'm just sort of having fun here because when you sort of realize that I'm everything that you are in the mirror, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be in my mirror because when you're running an eternal sun, then everything that runs through all those circuits that represent software or represents a unit of consciousness that is aware of itself, you can get into what we call breeding experiments or breeding consciousness directed energy systems, consciousness transport, right? And what are called what? Quote unquote, collectives, hive minds, formation of groups for matter, consciousness that is running four matter codes that represent soul consciousness groups, group formations. Okay, so that's much like a node in a network. You have a single node, single unit of consciousness connected to another node on the same motherboard. They're connected to each other, so they're communicating with each other, and they're communicating math codes, geometric math codes. Hopefully the math fits so the geometry fits. Remember, you can't put a square peg in a round hole. It just won't fit, will it? Why? Because the specs don't work. There isn't any room for tolerance. That tolerance is minus, slash, plus, complex number space. A space art, a space vector, right? Spectral analysis. So I was sharing some of this with a guy that lives in this house, and his girlfriend just got a new dog. So the first thing that I noticed when my door was open, because the room that I have, which is downstairs, is a fairly large room. See, and then I have my own separate bathroom, which is cool because it's both a shower and a bathtub. But my bathtub is the Pacific Ocean, particularly down the road here, right? That's where when somebody used to ask me, "Where do you take a bath at?" The Pacific Ocean. If I want to get cleaned up, that's where I go. The frequencies that are in that water will transmute anything I'm holding on to. And that's true when you ground your feet to the rock of the planet and pick up some free electrons. Electrons are free. That's what it means to be a torque converter, which means you're not holding one electron, which is consciousness, which is an energy unit of self-awareness. It's not being held captive. That means that every electron is now free, accelerated at a high rate of speed. So when you're giving away eternity, which is cosmic level acceleration of primal sound and light currents, right? Current events, right? Then you're free because you're eternity. So you're running faster than anybody else is. So they can't catch that spirit. That's the spirit that's eternity. That's eternal fire, right? That's stealth code. That's why this planet has a stealth code, right? A healing planet, right? So you realize when you look at the galactic history of things through the Guardian materials, it's sort of easy to put all this together when you think of units of consciousness that are networked with each other, right? Or, if you will, aligned with the way in which the math and geophysics work to explain their own underlying causality of why we experience what we do, when we do, where we are in a location, an arc location. Right? Remember, I talked about being a child and never left home. I'm still in that same spot, like I've never left. That's like a single point. A single point. I never left that single point. That single point of a cosmic level star. That's a cosmic level microphone. That's an open receiver. So it's an open receiver receiving communications to let me know everything that's going on out there. Right? So that means you got a receiving station, a cosmic level receiving station. So you realize when you're connected to others that are connected to the primal sound and light field, we got a lot of friends. That's a lot of guardians, right? That naturally protect, which is living through your art, right? With a lot of fire. And so when you're one, which means you're running one nuclear blast furnace, which means you're not running any polarity games or any polarization. You're one with all creation. You're gifting love to. So everything that you are, I am. Right? The difference is the torque speed differential that we experience between the waves that you're running, your core, which is really your core, which is the core operator. Right? The soul, the core, what represents your energy identity? How much energy are you running? How much can you sound compress, buffer, and then expand out? And now you're experiencing all that data, all that visual information, mathematical codes. Yeah, so the key's got to fit. Just like the square peg has got to fit in a square hole. And those dimensions have to be exact or it just won't fit. Any imperfection won't fit the way that the other one was designed. See, so one that plugs into another has to be perfection. If it's off by anything, so now we're talking tolerances. 0 errors. So when you think about errors, we're talking about error codes in a computer, error codes in a bootloader, error codes in software. All right, error, just like the idiot light that you have on your dashboard in your vehicle. When the engine light comes on, hey, that's called a code transfer. Hey, now you're holographically experiencing what the code is communicating to us, letting us know. Right? Something to have a fear, right? So that's why everything that they build is fear-based. It's not love-based. So you can always test yourself on that. Okay? All you have to do is drive your automobile and be aware of that. And next thing you know is you're being reminded, hey, there's something to be concerned about, something to fear. Why? Because you're using that as a transportation vehicle to get yourself somewhere. So if you have an intention, use your energy to direct and transport your consciousness someplace, and you're using an automobile that was meant to brake, then you already know from the get-go at some point in time in the future, you're going to get an idiot light that's trying to trigger what? A fear-based response that'll trigger something held in memory in order to experience what? Less voltage. That's all they're programming. So you have units of formation of consciousness, like in star systems, right? Through soul groups, flame groups, mathematical code groups, or software groups. So consciousness is running different software, right? So when you're one, it makes it simple, right? That's an equal sign. That means giving love unto all creation. So you see how that works. That's equal distribution. That's what makes it so beautiful when you're out in nature. So if you wanted to start doing an astronomical number count of everything that is out there, particularly in a place like this, or thick jungles like Amazon, try counting all the things that are out there experiencing itself in energy. And imagine you're experiencing what they are, everything that they are. And actually you can. That's what I do. I experience everything on the planetary level to experience anything that is experiencing a loss of electron because of something else that's feeding on it, we'll detect it. That's right. That's where the mother and the father that become one, right, will detect that naturally, because anything less than eternity is going to be detected because they're running at a slower speed. So you know that finite light does not run at our speed. That's why it can't make a camera. It can't take a picture of us and hold it, phase lock it, in order to use us as a source of fucking energy. Excuse my French. Put a B on it, buck. Buck my energy. Like a bucking bronco. So yeah, collective. So I was having a cool conversation because when the dog came in here, one of the first things that I noticed is that when it saw me, it didn't bark. Oh, so you're not a fear-based dog. I'm going to guess that somebody, when you were born into creation here, that whoever was there in your presence, like your mother, was giving you a lot of love, right? A lot of tongue kissing and hugs, right? And letting you know that you're being loved because you're a little puppy, right? You're being loved, so you're getting a lot of love from your mother and your father, right? So there isn't any reason for you to fear anything because the environment that you were born into, which is creation out of eternity, is experiencing what love is. So that dog doesn't have any reason to bark at you unless it wants to say hi or sing songs with you. But you can tell what the tones are meant to communicate by translating the language of a dog, which are frequencies. Right? That's one of the I love golden retrievers, Labrador. I've met so many different dogs in my life, actually so much that is out of nature, it's ridiculous. but you're recording, what it is you're experiencing as the frequencies and the vibration of everything that's running software, or is aware of itself, and now you're aware of what it is. So that's why when certain beings put up a lot of the stuff in the off-planet community, or trying to expand your consciousness to realize there's more than just what you are, right? So you realize, hey, there's a lot of other folks out there that live in other stars that we can see at night. Start adding it up, start running the numbers, right? So you realize, hell, I'm not alone, right? And that's what makes it beautiful to experience what love is, right? Yeah. So you're experiencing what love is. So I've always got me to experience. You know what that means? That's called self-healing. That's what Christ consciousness, or if you will, if you do, Bill Donahue broke a lot of this down about, and what I call word games, information games. When you understand, they know what we know what they know, right? So the invisible landscape is communicating information, what you're aware of, what I'm aware of, and what we're communicating of what we're aware of, right? So in other words, some being could tell me they're out on Saturn aboard a mothership and doing all that, right? So I realize, hey, I am what love is. It goes on forever. So you're just as much what I am. So you're communicating to let me know what's going on in your world, your space arc, the vector that you're occupying, the vector that you're experiencing. So now you're communicating to me what it is that you're experiencing that I'm now experiencing through you, but I'm not experiencing it directly. You're just communicating to me what it is you're experiencing. So you realize when I was a small child, anything is possible, right? So in other words, the universe is vast in its potential of possibilities of what there is to experience. So just because that's what you're experiencing doesn't mean that's what I'm experiencing. But now I'm realizing what you're telling me that you're experiencing. That means that's a possibility. So when you get into infinite possibilities, it means that we don't, being equal unto all, it's like another aspect of the same creation communicating to us what it's experiencing, its vectors. Oh, because it's getting the information. So it's experiencing what the information is informing in for matter, for a tetrahedron. The matter code's fire. The fire code's fire. So you need a coolant, right? And so it becomes simple. So when him and I were talking, I said, yeah, you know how they breed dogs, right? I said, when I grew up as a child, I was very blessed to have a purebred German Shepherd that unfortunately, because it bit a post office guy, right, a PO, that came through the backyard, and the dog that was bought to protect me bit him, and so he went bye-bye out to a ranch somewhere. And then I had two Irish setters. One was a male and one was a female. But having spent time with kennels and AKC, the American Kennel Club, and then studying to a certain degree how it is that they run breeding experiments, right, for hive mind or group consciousnesses, soul group consciousness groups. So when you sort of apply this to hybrids and training dogs, right, you get into conditioning, right, which is unconscious conditioning. So now you're into essentially RAM. We're back to RAM, which is reactive memory. This is what we're going to load into your memory, right? So that on command, on verbal or nonverbal command, you're going to obey the order, the command, which is the function. So that's a function of an APIN interface, which is an application program interface. Okay, so they're breeding dogs for all sorts of stuff. Like I mentioned him, like bird dogs, the one that we have out here. What I learned through other people that use these dogs, notice that, use these dogs, they use them. So they're users. Yeah, now you can put an AB in front of that, abusers. Okay, because the dog is not allowing to be free to be what it was originally seeded as to be. See what I'm saying? So in other words, there's the big difference between a silverback ape that's in its natural environment, naturally experiencing itself naturally in natural forming energy of spirit, which is what love is. But then when I experienced a silverback in the St. Louis Zoo, I was reading what it was experiencing and it was not happy. That silverback was letting me know he was actually angry that he was there. And I looked at him directly into his eyes and I said, I know, I love you, buddy. Right? So he knows. He was communicating with me telepathically. So I know, I got it. I know leashes, collars, and cages, man. You know, they want their money. Everything is all about resource allocation. You know what resource allocate is? Allocate numbers to be used as units of energy as a resource because they hold electrons captive. They have not learned yet because they have not healed yet. That's really what it is. Okay? Because you can imagine an eternal creation, a blueprint, a divine blueprint. The divine, when we talk about feminine and masculine, I combine it as one. Okay? One blast furnace. And so it's just on eternal fire to create. And that's a hot engine to create things with. So obviously you've got to be cool. So you begin to realize that if I'm experiencing a loss of electrons somewhere as a result of trauma, then what was the underlying causality of that trauma? Right? The use of energy. Right? Fractal. Loss of fractal. Now you're into viruses, just like a virus in a computer. So what happens is whatever the original codes were, they were changed. Okay, so who changed them? And now you can measure the difference in the records by the difference in the experiences that are represented by the records of what that conscious energy was experiencing from one vector to another or one time-space vector to another. This is what I was experiencing. Now I'm not experiencing that anymore. I'm supposed to be experiencing nothing, you know, just like when I was a child. I'm not supposed to experience anything less than eternal love. So I realize if I'm experiencing something less than with that love, that's called a detector. That's how sensitive a mono is. I'm experiencing a loss of voltage. So you realize if something is feeding on something, otherwise we wouldn't detect that. That's a loss of voltage because we realize what we represent, which is eternity, right? Guardians represent the acceleration of energy, which is gifting, giving it away. That means we do not hold energy captive. Instead, we're the ones that are giving it away that goes on forever giving it away. That means that any loss of an electron, we sense that. That's hypersensitivity. That's hyperspeed, or what I call a flash drive. So you can't take a picture of that because it's eternity. The speed differential doesn't allow to be able to create what? A still frame. They can't get a still frame. Finite light cannot get a still frame of eternity. A unit of eternal consciousness. Otherwise, it would be faster than eternity. And it's not. Because it's inverted. Running black hole. So you know that that's like the hamster wheel that's chasing electrons. See? So when it's no longer chasing electrons and giving away electrons, then you know that it's connected to the primal sound and light field. It's that simple. It's not, creation science is not complex, even though when you look at it, it says, man, do you realize the level of intelligence you would have to be in order to be able to assimilate that and then spit it right out and that be your DNA temple that you're running? Yeah, that's actually how it works. Okay? Because then it's going to run correctly as it was originally designed. Because you're going to experience perfect balance in every sphere. Every angle of light that we experience is going to naturally balance itself out because consciousness, which is energy, does not like to do any work. Do we? Not if we don't have to, right? So that means you're going to be seeking the pathway of the least electrical density in order to experience no charge. So you're not having to give electrons to somebody that's chasing a hamster wheel. Why would eternity be giving away its energy to something that is losing energy? Because they're not running a power station like ours. That's what it really boils down to. Otherwise, they would know the one from the other, which is the law of one, which is the law of least effort. So you can imagine if I was sharing this stuff and you're seeing me on this camera at 4 years of age barking this stuff into a cell phone. Where's this little kid from? I jumped out of an eternal sun that's in love with itself. Yeah, of course, because the energy is so beautiful to experience because we love music. The first musicians, spiritual musicians, musical spheres. So I mentioned to him about how dogs are trained to perform jobs, just the same way that they were doing breeding experiments with humans, if you will. You know, to raid a castle. You know, and this can be actually translated in the difference between, say, somebody who runs 100 meters in the Olympics, right? I don't know what the record is now. I think it's somewhere around 9 flat. It might even be 8.9 seconds. It can motor its biped. It's pedals, right? 100 meters. Wow, 9 flat. That's pretty fast, right? And so then you have the long distance, cross country, you know, Breatharians. Man, I can keep going. I don't need any food, man. I'm burning the energy of the cosmos. Right? How far you want me to run? Across the planet? Sure, I can run around the planet nonstop. Whoa, you can keep your breath, your gate open like that? Yeah. And that's actually called the gate speed. The gate speed of your breathing, your rhythm. Actually, it's the rhythm. The rhythm. I call it the love and the peace. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't normally use peace till I first heard it out of the English dictionary. I prefer the word harmony. Harmony. Right? Musicians have a tendency to like to stay with a tight focus because I'm a musician, a spiritual musician that loves to play music. So I do know something about sound and instruments because I came out of my mother's portal, if you will, or gate, going right to playing drums, just as fast as I could do it, you know, which is like beating to the dance of your drum, which is spirit dance. Spirit loves to dance with the stars, star dancers. So you're naturally a star dancer. That's a star dancing musician. That means that the move and the format and the flow of that energy is dancing in rhythm. Dancing in rhythm and balance. And that's harmony. Now your state of consciousness is experiencing harmony, which is harmonics, which is a speed ratio. So that all the waves are in equality with each other. Equilibrium states, equal unto other that we're giving love to. So that means we have learned how to tune stars, our Merkaba, to be in perfect harmony and balance with the music, which is sound and light orchestra. Right? So when it came to the dogs, the end of that discussion was, well, you realize why they breed dogs a certain way. That says, you know, the dog. And it was cool because he acknowledged that. He says, yeah, it's not barking, it's quiet. Right? Noisemakers, you know what a noisemaker is, right? That's an idiot light. You know, just like a horn on your car. Hey, get your attention, right? Machines, you know. And so this dog that's right behind us here is a barker. Like when I go out and do energetic work out here, okay, that dog just howls. Then I can be out there. And in other words, I'm in the same spot, but he doesn't bark a peep. But the dog barks as soon as I start to give love away. So the fear-based dog is a security system for the being that lives in fear of what love is, right? So that being has yet to heal also. Actually, a lot of folks here, particularly on this island. Remember when I was talking about with Lemurian? She was telling me that this, actually all the islands that I've been to, which is Kauai, Oahu, and the Big Island, she said this became a dumping ground, you know, for a lot of trauma. An enormous amount of trauma. That's why... you know, you're measuring the density, the electrical density of the consciousness that is here. That is very, very dense, but that's not that way on the whole island, because the weather systems here are actually representative of all the different weather systems on the planet when they're in a natural flow of the atmospherics, the isobars, which is the iso frame rate, speed of experiencing the movie, between sound compression, right, and expansion of consciousness playing that movie, right? And so that's why certain beings are experiencing different movie theaters. Okay, you could be down the road and experiencing a different movie theater, right? The experience is the energy, which is the consciousness that is experiencing itself, having an event, experiencing an event. The speed at which those circuits open and close. Hey, that's an experience. What does it feel like? What does the soul feel? How does that feel? Hey, I'm experiencing nirvana, or I'm excited. Wow, that's cool. Take a look at that, right? You know, like parting of the Red Sea, you know, where all of a sudden something shows up and beautiful, like, oh gosh, I experienced so many beautiful, the spirits in the sky, like eagles. A goddess presenting herself, you know, with her wings spread, with a happy face, smiling at you, right? And loves you, let you know, I love you too. In clouds, right? The elementals, the elemental command, right? Spirit in the wind, spirit of the water, spirit in the fire, spirit in the earth, right? Spirit molecule, molecular bonds, right? We're bonded, baby. We're on fire, right? And so you see how the breeding dogs go, and all you have to do is scale that up to human genetics, okay? Of you know, what do you want? How would you like the next version to be? What would you like the next version to be? What instruction sets do you want to program in there that are going to work within the universal and galactic template, right? With a high level of precision, particularly as a garden, right? And that's one of the reasons I love Asha Diane. I haven't met, at least to my knowledge, because I don't use names per se. I sort of leave the alphabet soup of letter arrangements when it comes to verbal and written text sort of off to the side. It's not that it's not valuable or doesn't have value, but my antenna works a little differently. In other words, I'm not saying anything. I don't have to say anything and experience and know what's happening, particularly through my heart and my soul. That's how I know what's going on, right? I don't read a newspaper to find out what the hell is going on, right? Guardians certainly would not do that, would they? A security team, right? So it's like being connected. When you're connected to the source in which it all began, that's home base intelligence. The EFFI field, the electric field force intelligence, join forces with the creative side of the cosmos, right? And so that's a lot of fire. That's a lot of light. That's a sound magician that loves to play music. The spirit that does the dance. And so, what a beautiful day. These last couple of days, what I've managed to absorb or pick up, you know, like the pickup on a guitar, you know, like that old, what was the name of those guitars? I remember I saw one. I think I may have fooled around with one for a short period of time, even though I prefer drums over playing a guitar. I think they were made by Fender, called Stratocaster. I believe that Jimi Hendrix may have used a Stratocaster, Led Zeppelin. What are some of these other guitars that I remember that I grew up with? Folks that, Chet Huntley, Chet Atkins. Some folks that play really good guitars, particularly those that play Latin music, love Latin music from South America, from all the tribes, right? You know, going down into Mexico, wearing a sombrero, right? And their dance, you know, Latin dancing. Now you're into Tantra stuff, right? And then you're into shamanic techniques of ecstasy, what it's like to experience ecstasy. Ecstasy. Wow. Who came up with this? Very powerful experiences that allow us to realize just how beautiful and magical the universe is to experience when you have so much love in your heart to experience it with. And that's a collaborated relationship that we have with all the other units of energy that are aware of itself. They become aware of who we are, which is what love is, that they're now experiencing if they need healing. Naturally. That's a natural healer. The natural form and flow of that energy that came out of the point of origin is naturally healing those that aren't experiencing the point of origin. We did not lose the point of origin. Right? That's the center point of a campfire. Light the fire, baby. Crystal ship, all right. Light my fire, baby. Have a good evening. Be good to yourselves. Rosh Hashanah.